Greetings. This is Dr. Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, creator, and your host of social therapy and host of therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Whew, what a day. Listen, I just thank God for letting me get through this day. I'm just happy. I'm happy because yesterday I had a challenging day. I had Suave days, but you know what? It's such a blessing to have people in your corner, to have your back, to help you navigate emotions, navigate feelings, and just give you a better perspective. Yesterday, I lost a family member, and it was quite challenging. You know, it's always challenging emotionally when you lose a family member, and just thank God for having someone in my corner. And I just thank God for allowing me to see another day and another day to get it right, another day to uh, make amends, apologize, and get it right. So I'm just happy. So tonight, we have a very sensitive and serious topic, and it's dealing with family violence. And so tonight's topic is family violence and the trauma that it has on us as a community. A lot of times we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about domestic violence. We don't want to talk about violence. Violence comes in many forms. And so tonight we have a very special guest going to be talking about it. This individual is a clinical social worker, a certified family violence intervention specialist. They are a certified family advocate. They've been in the mental health field for almost about 20 years. They've been serving families, individuals, and seniors, and been dealing with an array of mental health issues. Also, they're a Christian counselor as well as a minister at New Covenant Pure Holiness Church International, but also they're a member of the greatest fraternity in the world, Phi Beta Sigma. So without further ado, the wonderful and my frat brother, Mr. James Harris.
Now that's an introduction for you. I need to introduce you. You need to introduce me all the times I go out and speak. I like that.
Thank you so much, Brother James. Listen, thank you for honoring us for coming on. I would like for you to just give a basic introduction of yourself and tell them about your skills, because you are a complete, in my perspective, is you're a complete person in this profession, because I do everything from a social, spiritual, and clinical perspective. And knowing you for these years, you have that balance. So just tell people a little bit about yourself.
Well, you kind of covered most of it. Like I said, my focus as a clinical social worker is a lot of times is dealing with people who have issues with anger. Anger is an emotion, and so many people struggle with managing and expressing in a positive manner that emotion of anger. And as you also mentioned, as a family violence intervention specialist, my focus is strengthening families. I work with men and women and children to look at dynamics that are going on inside of the house. And we work on connecting the family to communicate better, and then also to address a lot of those issues going on. So conflict is not going to be eliminated, because if you live in a family and in a house, you understand conflict will never be eliminated, but it can be minimized. And then to a point where we're not hurting one another with our words and our actions. So that's a lot of the work that I do around, like I said, anger management and family violence, and also like the family counseling. Like I said, just working with those dynamics with mother, father, child, or children to address a lot of those issues that, sometimes you don't know that you have. You just know that you're upset or you're frustrated. You can't spell out what that problem really is. So many times, working with families, and just talking to, oh, my child has this problem. They're getting, they're angry all the time. They're fighting, they're arguing, they're talking back, they're not listening. And then when you get in and you find the real issue is what? It's a breakdown in the makeup of how that family unit works. It's a misunderstanding. So that's the kind of work that I do, just as an explanation. Um, it is all of it encompass mental health. I think that's the that ingredient is that mental health piece. Also, you mentioned as a Christian counselor, uh,
Hmm.
like that is my base. You know,
Yes.
talk about spirituality and a connectiveness. I've always been connected to my God since I can remember. That's just how I live. That's what gives me peace. Everyone has something different for themselves. I tell
Mm-hmm.
people my faith, how I worship and pray. That's what helps me get through. You have to find that thing for you.
Hmm.
So all of that you mentioned balance. I
Yeah.
I can't do anything without my faith in God. That
Okay.
is all the balance I need. Everything else is just extra, added
Mhm.
bonus.
Okay. So, James, you was mentioning about family dynamics, and this just triggered me to ask this question. Do you believe anger could be like a learned behavior?
Anger is an emotion. Um,
Okay.
Now, there are habits that children pick up through learning. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of times it's because they don't know how to express that emotion, or they don't know the proper way to talk about what's going on. So what we see are negative habits forming and
Yes.
developed because I don't want to deal with this feeling.
Yes.
Like when you angry, it takes over your whole body, and so it's an emotion that you can't explain. And so what happens a lot of times, people get to a point of avoidance. And so
Avoidance.
because you're in a space where you want to avoid certain things, because you recognize that this thing triggers certain emotions. There's three things that when we talk about these emotions that always come up. Um, the three emotions that anger leads to, or three events rather that anger leads to, is the fight, fright, and freeze. And so sometimes people don't realize, like when your emotions overtake you, you know you, there's certain things that you can't control, and
Hmm.
that's one of the things that people don't understand. Your feelings and emotions you cannot control. It's your actions. Your actions are what you can get a handle of. And so what happens, people, they get so overwhelmed with these emotions, the emotions of anger, that they can no longer control what their emotions are telling them, and they stop listening. And so
Hmm.
we see a lot of the acting out. Um, Last couple of weeks, we got the biggest display of anger internationally when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. I chuckle, but I've been saying
Greetings, Brandy.
that's normal. Like that happens all of the time. What happens is
Hmm.
it just happened on this big of a stage, so people see it. But as I listen, people, all throughout the country they had dialogue and people talked about it. Most people recognize that was a normal reaction, and most people recognize that with the core or issues that's going on in a relationship can cause people to do that. That's how common that was. Like it that's why people don't realize that's why like a lot of the discussion around it was split. You had some people that didn't see any problem with Will Smith did, and then you have some people that's just which is the worst thing in the world. But those who deal with mental health, they understand that that's just a part of that's like a call for a sneeze. Things like that happens because it's a struggle, and then relationship health. I mentioned mental health, but relationship health. How healthy is a relationship? Any person with eyes that saw, that what's going on and understand relationships saw like, oh, okay, we get it now. We see why that happened. And as like I said, there's a lot of people who actually who are working on themselves, and they saw that and they recognized, oh, oh yeah, I've been there before.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's just like I said, it just it played out on an international stage. So, but I honestly hope that it sparks a stronger conversation. I know I'm continuing to talk about it, about men's mental health, family dynamics, how they work, and then also the aggressive behavior that many of us go to when we don't understand in a moment our emotions in a moment, or when we lose control of a second, our feelings, or like we need to not just talk about it, but learn that there are different avenues to take other than becoming more aggressive or becoming aggressive.
Okay. So how does emotional intelligence tie into people being able to identify with those behaviors and outcomes?
Well, yeah, I mean, emotional intelligence is when you become when you're on the level of becoming an expert of yourself. You know you understanding your feelings. You know your thoughts, and you have a better handle on it. And so many people, I don't. Many people do struggle with understanding their emotions, because
Yes.
a lot of times we just, especially men, we just live life.
Mm-hmm.
We're working. We may deal with our family and children. No, we don't have time to sit and think about how I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
What has me upset right now? We just know we're upset.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times to sit and take time to get
Yes.
full understanding of your emotions and the things that you're dealing with, it does take work, and it takes patience. And,
Yes, absolutely.
a lot of guys and women for that matter, they don't want to take time for that. Like, self-care for many
Mm.
people is not a priority. And
Yes.
changes, like I said, many people will continue to struggle with their emotions and feelings.
Yes. So, because it's a question I have to ask you, but right now we want to go into station identifications, and we'll
Okay.
be right back.
Hello, my name is Goma Marie Conde. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified trauma counselor, and I am on NPN TV.
What's up, everyone? I'm Brandy the Disconnector, wife, show host, entrepreneur, investor, and ICS certified life coach, here to tell you that I'm on NPN TV, the network that is by us and for us. Lock in and let's get it.
Suave afternoon, Suave afternoon, Suave afternoon. This is Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator. Hope you guys having a suavelous day.
Yeah, and with that, let's commence to pay.
Okay, I'm so suavelous, you so suavelous.
Together we can fix the trauma that's befallen us.
Divine social interactions remains marvelous.
Mind-blowing, suavelicious talk, higher consciousness. But think, let not your hearts be troubled, Dr. Brother Suave.
Divine light give you double.
I am on MPN TV, and I'm your host, Dr. Brother Suave. Uh, our very special guest today, Mr. James Harris. We're talking about family violence. And before we left, he made a point, and I just wanted to address it. When he was talking about self-care, a lot of times we don't take time to learn ourselves, learn our emotions, and to identify with things. But I do realize we take the time when we're in crisis, when we're forced to do things that make us have to address our emotions, our family, our feelings, and sometimes our legal matters. So, the question I have for you: do you believe anger impacts first the individual, second the family, and third the community? How do you believe anger impacts that? Those three areas.
Yeah, okay. Let's replay. Well, like I said, anger affects everybody. Okay, as individuals, we all are affected by anger.
Yes.
Now, you can choose, and I say choose because anger on many levels is a choice. Well, not the anger, but your actions around
The
anger.
actions. Yes.
And so you can choose to make better choices, or you can choose to give in to your anger, which leads to a lot of problems and issues. One of the questions I ask at the beginning of all of my anger management class is, how is anger a good thing? We know how it can be a bad thing, right? Because most people that take the class, they know it's bad because they gotten arrested and have to take a class.
Yes.
But I ask, how can anger be a good thing? And this is how it really can be impactful for people. Anger can let you know when things are wrong. Anger is an alarm system. So here's the thing: when you're angry, stop paying attention. Why am I angry? The alarms are going off. Okay.
Yes.
If you're angry, the alarms are going off. So that's something that you have to kind of pay attention to. In the family dynamic, and just working with families and that have siblings or children that have anger issues, that can disrupt the entire household with one person struggling to control their emotions. Marriages break up. I had a family that I was working with for a while, for about a year. And like I said, marriage broke up. Families was torn apart because the parents did not understand the emotions and the behaviors of their children. So all they could do is fight. So it impacts that. And then if you look at the community, how does anger impact the community? The cost. Destruction isn't free. When a child tears up a school,
Yes.
a grown man gets arrested, or a woman gets into an argument, that someone has to pay something, and it affects the community because a lot of times most people who go through the legal system, economically, they're struggling. They have challenges.
Yes.
And so what happens a lot of times, if let's just say someone who gets consistently or getting into arguments and even on some levels fights in the community, they get, that costs money. You got police officers, judges, jails, all that costs money. And all that impacts the community because now it's a safety concern. When we talk about family violence, you're looking at safety concerns. Is this person safe to be around, or is this person safe to have in my community? And it's not that you worried about them doing something catastrophic, but it is a situation where, they can cause some type of destruction or interruption, more so, because it's so much as that you're worrying about people who are angry, going to just have some kind of deadly force, or they're going to blow up the world or anything. But the concern is, as far as the community, is the interruption, even the family. A lot of the calls I get from parents is the issue that I have to leave work, or my job is disturbed because my child has this behavior problem. Or adult parents. I had an adult, and I got to email them back. I had a mom And I was just saying this the other day. About every month, I get about 2 calls from adults, from parents talking about their adult children. You know, that 27-year-old that won't get off the couch and find a job. I get called. I get at least that, but I'm clockwork. every month.
But it
About,
happens.
you know, and those parents don't know what to do. But the thing is, that child, that young person, has been through so much disappointment that they literally have given up, and they don't know which way to go. And so when you try to get them off the couch, they're fighting you.
Yes.
You know, and that's where a lot of that comes from. So it's very impactful, you know, for the individual, the family, and the community. And you know, those are just ways in which it impacts.
Yes. And it's funny how the way you responded, James, it was some questions that I was thinking. So here, like when you were saying destruction isn't free, and then I think about when you talk about safety issues, you know, destruction is not free. So now you having people who fearing that you may go off, or they're afraid. But then think about it, not free. You're talking about an arrest. You're talking about bonding, court fees, or restitution. Because you remember when they're just tearing up things, there's restitution to those restaurants. There's restitution to a person's car getting smashed because they was going to an angry rage. And again, the arrest, the felony, and not just that, things you do, anger management courses. And can you imagine when you have all these things, bonds, probation, restitution, and you got to go to anger management classes every single week and pay for it. And so, again, these are some of the things that anger can really be very costly. So my next question is, because you was mentioning about these adult males or adults. So how does anger manifest into our adult life?
Well, I mean, unchecked anger stays with you. Like unchecked emotions, I mean, it just stays with you. Yeah. And so what happens a lot of times, many people who deal with, you know, that post-traumatic stress syndrome, the PTSD, and it's not just for the soldiers, right? You know, it's for children that go through trauma. I was talking to a parent about this today, about her son, right? He's in 5th grade.
James.
Yes.
As you answered, it was one individual. I think they had a statement for you. It says, it's a Dwayne Brown. It says, men are afraid of what others would think about them, showing a sign of weakness.
Yes, that's true. You know, that whole sign of weakness, I think that's an individual thing. I honestly do. Collectively, most men don't care. I mean, because I've taught on that. I've discussed it. Most men don't really care. Like men, like as you get older, you're like, like teenagers, preteens, kids, they care, but most men don't really care. So I think that's that piece to that. But going back to like I was saying, you know, many people who deal with the stuff in childhood, they hold on to it, and they got a lot of that addressed. And the point I was gonna make was mother. She was just telling me, a 5th grader, about how a haircut, right? She made him get a haircut, or you know how kids when you're growing up, you get mom get a haircut, but his friends didn't get a haircut, so he had to go to school with a new haircut. That was for him, you know. Like how many of us, and I don't know if you remember, but I remember back in the day, especially because when I was a kid, my mom used to always cut my hair bald. I used to always come to school with a bald head. My light went off. But with that bald head and going to school with a bald head, what would happen a lot of times? People slap you in the back of the head. That could be traumatic. That could be traumatic. Just like this light blowing. it could be traumatic for children. And so a lot of times that those children that go through those experiences, they hold on to them. That smack in the back of the head lasts a whole lot longer than that day. I mean, you carry it with you. And so now I don't want to get no bald head. Not me. I'm just saying traumatic trauma.
Yes.
I don't want to
Because
get
they
a
take them
bald.
right back to that place as a
Yeah.
child.
I'll never. No, don't cut my head bald.
Mhm.
So I grow my hair out, and so that's what some people they go through, and they hold on to it, and that's where a lot of that anger. Because now, if you cut my hair or you cut my child's hair, we got a problem.
Yes. And you're actually defining, some of the effects of trauma, because anytime you have a traumatic experience, you go right back to that space.
Yeah.
And so when you say unchecked anger, unchecked trauma, you just go right back to that place and you have a difficult time dealing with it as you become an adult.
Yeah. Well, and that's
So,
why a lot of adults they continue to struggle with. And listen,
yes,
a lot of times it may not be because you don't pay attention to it. Most of us don't pay attention to it because it's something small. Like I said, a haircut, right? And
hmm
we don't pay attention to that. We don't let that ruin our lives that I don't really care for a haircut. And then you have guys now and women that walk around and don't get haircuts. Simply not solely because they're getting their head smacked, but because of some type of a childhood adverse experience to where,
yes,
like, you know what? I'm not cutting my hair. That I don't do that. I grow it out,
yes,
I dread it, I lock it, all that, and so, but we, like I said, we do not think about that. That doesn't
absolutely.
cross our mind. Like most times you'll sit back and say, like a LeBron James, at some point you say, man, why don't you just cut that thing off? Like you just holding on to it. You got the head bag going extra for his back. Like, but just cut it off. Like, but you don't
You
understand.
don't understand what he experienced.
There you go. And that trauma. So the fact that they holding on that little bit of hair on top of their head,
Yes,
for them, that's saying, hey, listen, I'm not letting it go because I never resolved the trauma. Now I have
yes.
no idea if LeBron James had trauma around his hair or not, but I'm just giving that as an example.
No, it's a perfect example. And the thing is, for years, people, how mental health psychology was practiced years ago, and we always presenting problems, and we address those issues. But now that we were more educated now on trauma, we realized a lot of presenting problem was actually just a little part. It was the trauma that they experienced. And so, and when you were saying about these adverse experiences, these early childhood trauma, and it was like we were looking at this and we thought this was something recent, but it actually was a result of early childhood trauma. And this leads to my next question. Do you believe there's a correlation between early childhood trauma and anger? Even though you pretty much addressed it. But
Yeah,
again, the bald head.
yeah,
I mean, a lot of people won't cut their hair because that bald head makes them go right back to when they was a kid and they used to get slapped upside the head. And he's called Baldy Scully. So they don't want anybody even, think they don't want to have anything to take them to those memories. So they avoid it. So guess what? A full head of hair will never have them to remember because they don't see it and nobody ever will address it. So it will not be any triggers.
yeah. And it's so amazing. Like people weren't wearing the bald head, and then Michael Jordan made it cool, and then everybody all of us,
Yes,
you
I
know what?
remember that.
I
Who would
can
cut
really
a full head, 25 years old, like the rappers? Remember Tupac had hair? Just cut your hair.
just
Who
cut it
would
off,
do that?
man.
Especially men.
Yeah, and you had people like you said, like Tupac, who actually had hair, but because
Yes,
it was just cool at that time, so he just bald head. And
yes,
like I said, so some people, because they saw Michael Jordan, that's why he made so much money, because they saw him do it. Oh, you know what? This is okay. It's safe now.
yes. I want to
And
be like Mike.
that's what happens. Yeah, be like Mike. So that helps some people move past that, and that's why I say we don't pay attention to a lot of times those small traumatic experiences because we don't think they're that serious or important, but they are, because they can lead to something if you hold on to them.
Absolutely. And the thing is, again, it's a difference between an untrained eye and a trained eye. So little things that the layman may not even see. It's just like you were talking about the bald head. They made it safe because then the people who were having these early childhood experiences, who actually was going bald, was able to jump right on the bandwagon and shave their hair even though they was thinning, and they was able to get in and blend in and didn't have to worry about any triggers of their trauma. They just feeling and blended in. So now they have a new experience,
Experience. And like I said, like having Michael Jordan do it, I'm like Mike now. I'm not even, because you don't think about the slap of the ball here now when you're out.
No.
Basketball, even like Mike, you thinking like, man, I'm good.
Yes, because remember a lot of those pro basketball players was doing that, I mean, but let me tell you, James, never. I was, as you see, I was never a follower, so I always did my own thing, but I just couldn't do it.
I was a Shaq fan, so I went bald when I was a kid. So I was always.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but remember he used to wear that fade.
Yeah, I wore the fade too, but like I said, when that earlier, bald head.
Yes, so. Man. So listen, we're gonna go right again, and we're gonna come back and continue our dialogue. But we're gonna go into a station identification for right now. Okay, we'll be right back.
Programs like this are made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, iBlister Digital Media Creative, and from contributions to NPN TV from viewers like you. Thank you.
What's up, everyone? I'm Brandy the Disconnector, wife, show host, entrepreneur, investor, and ICS certified life coach, here to tell you that I'm on NPN TV, the network that is by us and for us. Lock in and let's get it.
And we're back. This is Dr. Brother Suave. I'm a special guest, Mr. James Harris. As when we went on this station identification, I just thought of something. It's off topic, but it's on topic.
Okay.
They're professional sports franchise. And this is just something I wanted to ask you. When you look at anger, when you look at the NFL and the NBA, it seems like there are like fines and consequences and forced anger management. But then when you look at the National Hockey League, it seems to be reinforced. Now, both people from both leagues and all leagues come out of our community collectively. But when you look at these are their jobs, and a person can have anger no matter if it's NBA, NFL, or national NHL. But when I'm looking at one particular league, I don't think these people will be able to really address their issues because the violence is reinforced. They actually let them fight it out, where there is a major consequence in the NFL or NBA when they fight. Even in baseball, it seems like you would never see anybody come off the sidelines, but it seems to be okay. And you don't hear about these huge fines. They throw bats at them. They come out the dugouts, and you see that way more often than the NBA and the NFL. But the NFL and NBA seems to have more consequences in comparison to the major leagues and the National Hockey League. And I don't think these issues of anger will actually ever be addressed.
Yeah, with the hockey thing, like I said, a lot of people have been making that argument for years.
Yes,
fighting is in international hockey is banned. So outside of the NHL, there's no fighting. But I think part of that has to do with I'm moving. I'm trying to get people to pay attention to me. Because if you're fourth in the 3-man race, that's not good. So NHL, they have to step out and do something extra for the attention, because most times people who, it's kind of like NASCAR, I think they go for the crashes, and NHL, some people go to see the fights. So that's just something that it evolved into. But internationally, I know there's no fighting in hockey. That's just something the NHL developed, I think, through habit, because earlier on, like I said, how they say boys would be boys and stuff like that. So it was no big deal. And then, a lot of those sports, when it was starting, as you talk about baseball, that's been around, for longer than any other major American sport. So part of that whole conflict thing, like in baseball, the fighting and the arguing and the back and the forth, that was just little nuances that people enjoy, like side things that people enjoyed. That, I mean, it slowly has come out the game. Like you talk about anger in baseball. One of the biggest things in baseball was when a bad call happened, the manager run out.
Yes, I remember that.
With the ref and stuff. I mean, the umpire all in their face. And actually, Atlanta Braves legend coach Bobby Cox is like the all-time most thrown out manager in Major League history. And so, but like you say, I mean, when things like that is ingrained in the sport,
yeah.
But they actually, I mean, that's actually going away, because they're doing instant replay now. So if a manager has a problem, hey, instant replay. So, but like I said, I think part of it, and I was just talking about this earlier, about boys getting out their aggression. Like, we've gotten to the point now in this country where we're telling boys that ultimately they can't be boys anymore.
Yes.
And it's not, coming out saying you can't be boys, but it, just through policy and culture and things of that nature, the natural aggressive behavior,
yes,
boys is being demonized now.
Yes, and they having a term, they saying toxic masculinity, somewhat.
Yeah, but toxic masculinity, but I always fight back with that. Would say,
yes, I understand.
What happened to hero masculinity? Because here's the thing: if you were stuck in a
I already know,
a 30 floor building, if you were stuck in a 30 floor building, now you would be glad for any fireman to come up and help you out. But that 6'2" man, 200-pound, came up there to help you out, you'd be a lot more grateful than that 5'8", 5'7", 150-pound woman. So I think we ignore the hero masculinity piece in all of that, in that aggressiveness. Because think about it, it's somebody aggressive and assertive to run up 30 flights of stairs.
Yes,
safety.
It takes a level of, it takes a level of courage.
It does. Yeah. And so that's why I say, if people say here toxic masculinity, and I say no, hero masculinity.
Yeah, because
We have to change. Men have to change the narrative to a lot of
yes,
that.
and that's when we have to start controlling our own narrative, because if we don't advocate for ourselves, they will water us down to nothing. So we have to sometimes defend it. One of the things was funny to me. It was a thing where Kevin Hart, it was a joke. So the joke was the girl was getting into an argument with the guy, and then and so first thing, remember toxic masculinity. So she immediately goes to him to say, "Hey, defend my honor and protect me." And he was like, "Oh no, 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 no. Listen, if he did that to you, what do you think he's gonna do with me? Somebody got to call the police, you know." So see what I'm saying? So at one point you say it's toxic, but another point you come into us to help you, you know. So again, I'm glad that that's a very great comeback when it comes to hero masculinity. I appreciate that. And so the things you were mentioning about now I have a better understanding. But the thing is, one thing about what I don't like is the fact that these different sports franchise outside of the, if you don't address those issues with anger and you always look at it from economic perspective, when you having people, again, you said when untapped anger, untapped emotional issues or anything, unaddressed issues get progressively worse. So after they finish their professional career, this can actually impact our one of my first questions. How does it impact the individual, the family, and the community? As you can see, some professional athletes sometimes become very aggressive towards their loved ones after their career is over.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I think part of that has to do, and there's a brother online that he gave a great answer. He was talking to some women about this, but it's about the lifestyle in which you create. What happens a lot of times with professional athletes, for lack of a better reference, they get all of their money up front early in life.
Yes.
And so not all, but they get a good lump sum early up front. And so what happens with that is if you get, now let's just throw out a number, let's say $5 million at 21 years old, you can start creating a lifestyle for yourself that, unless you continue to grow in what you're doing, it's going to be hard to maintain. And that's what happens with a lot of professional athletes. You come in to the league and you may play, the average, I guess, career in the NFL is 3 years. But let's just say if you're successful and you manage to play, let's say 6 years, and you end up amassing, let's say $20 million in that 6 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. You can create a lifestyle in 6 years that you can spend the rest of your life struggling to try to maintain, and that's what happens a lot of times. That's why a lot of these athletes go broke, because in that short period of time, they put together houses and cars and, just people and entourages and stuff like that, that after 2 and 3, there's no way they can maintain paying all of that payroll. And that's where a lot of people struggle. And not even just professional athletes, it's regular people. If a young person coming out of college gets that $80,000 job, most times they do not do the right things with their finances starting out. Very, very few young people live below their means and start saving for the future. So I think that's part of it, that mentality. Because when you go broke, that emotion comes over you. When like, if you ever had somebody who was depending on you ask you for something and you couldn't provide it, like that's, I don't know how to explain it, but that's just
it becomes, again, for a provider, it can have displaced aggression. You can act out, you can get frustrated because you don't have the ability to provide, and it may manifest in some type of violence. It may manifest in some type of yelling, screaming, and acting out. So I definitely understand. Actually, I'm having a future show called Life After Football, and so we're going to be talking about those issues and some of the struggles of professional athletes when they're no longer able to be on the gridiron. So, James, thank you for that. So, What's your opinion about, like, again, we were talking about people getting older and no longer being able to provide, or after their career is over. It could be any career. It doesn't have to be necessarily sports. So what's your opinion about seniors, especially those over 65, still exhibiting behaviors of severe anger?
I was just reading an article today.
Oh, share. I got to hear this.
It was just saying a lot of times when you see a lot of that hypersensitive and a lot of those aggressive behaviors at a certain point, it's early onset of dementia.
Can you repeat that just in case someone, and tell them where you read the article if you could?
Yeah, I read so many different articles, especially on Facebook.
It's okay.
If I find it, I definitely will send you the link. But it was just talking about how people who have a lot of those hypersensitive emotions and they're easily triggered to get aggressive and things of that nature like that. And not even just the aggressive, because, hypersensitivity does not always lead to aggressive behavior. It can lead to being withdrawn. And anger is not just a physical aggressive thing. Some people break down and cry when they get angry. Some people, like I said, they withdraw when they're angry, and shut down. So anger looks different for everybody. But if, like I said, you get to a certain point in your life, literally, if you're continuously showing signs of hypersensitivity, where you're frustrated and just overreacting stuff, some of that early onset dementia. So I think that's something that we need to educate ourselves on, not just like mental health, but physical health, because all anger issues, behavioral issues are not meant. Some of it is physical. Sometimes there's something else going on in your body, and it's a medical condition that may be triggering those emotions. So one of the things that, especially in the assessment period, evaluation period of counseling, I know I do it. I tell people, I ask, when was the last time you seen your primary care physician? When I checkup, blood work. And they say, it's been a while and stuff like that. And I say that you need to go there too. Like, get a physical, make sure, because we have to rule that out, because sometimes it's a medical condition.
Absolutely. And I practice the same way. You want to rule those things out. And again, this is why sometimes from time to time, I think that people can go to mental health to find out, because a lot of times people say it's such a stigma on it, and they don't understand there's just so many different things dealing. It's just education, and it's important. People don't even think anger is a mental health issue. They just think, and I'm glad that you're sharing that. Again, the early signs of dementia, hypersensitivity, because I know some people, and I'm like, you're at this age and still acting out, still aggressive, still yelling, still basically they put their hands on you, because again, I always say to anybody who know me, any unaddressed issues progressively gets worse. It could be mental or physical, psychological, psychiatric. Anything progressively gets worse. I remember a particular friend of mine, and being in this profession, they always say, don't be diagnosing me. And when we see things that just so obvious, and we're just trying to address it, because we already know if it goes unaddressed, it's going to show up and show out later. And I remember a particular individual was just like, stop, don't listen, I'm not watching you hear this all the time. I'm not one of your clients. I'm not one of your patients. Don't start diagnosing me. And they don't realize it is like the red flag. And nevertheless, makes long story short, the individual was in their profession, and in the middle of a transaction, their mental health issues right there in real time showed up and showed out in front of everybody, and it jeopardized not only their reputation, it ruined their reputation, but it jeopardized their credentials, and the organization put them on suspension, in addition to forced them to have 6 months of mental health treatment. So now, not only did they get 6 months, they got an additional 6 months because they had to address their mental health issues, because the diagnosis that they received showed that they really had some psychiatric issues. But again, it was something that progressively got worse. And I tell people, when you having all these constantly issues with anger, issues and your family dynamics, or issues and within yourself. And that's why I ask the question: the individual, the family, and the community, it progressively gets worse. And so I'm just happy that you address that, because a lot of people don't even understand this. So I would like for you to answer this question. Do you think passive aggression is a form of anger?
Yes. I mean, once again, anger is an emotion, right?
Yes.
So,
But that little passive aggression,
yeah. So if you showing some passive aggressive, I mean, that can be definitely a sign of showing like, just I'm frustrated. I don't like this situation. Because remember, anger is an alarm.
Yes.
A lot of times people become passive aggressive because they're ignoring the alarm and they're just trying to
Yes.
move forward, right? So instead of you addressing how you're feeling and the incidents and what's going on, you know, you're moving to another level of, like I said, either affecting your family, because we talked about, or your community, and on some levels yourself, because I
Yeah.
don't want to ignore that part. I think some people get to a point where they do more self-harm when going through a lot of those issues. But yeah, passive aggressive behavior a lot of times is definitely a signal sign of anger.
Okay, you have a person named Van Leslie. Oh, you reading it?
Yeah, I see. It says between the trigger and the response, there is a space where anyone has the control to make a different choice. Yeah. And so what I teach during that point, and I educate people. So one of the things I consistently talk about is you having creating outlets for yourself, and then practicing. Because at the end of the day, like you said, when you're getting triggered, you know that the
Yeah.
alarm, you feel it, and on some levels, the space, you start becoming, you're knowledgeable about the area and what's going on, so you're not being triggered. So people who learn that, all right, these things right here will set me off, but then if you've been practicing some of the techniques of for your outlets and stuff like that, you can immediately go to either deep breathing or positive, focalization, and just getting your mind together. Or sometimes, you know what? And this is what I talk about. I need to take a break if I have the ability to just, hey, listen, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, go get some water, or I'm gonna go outside, take a walk, get some fresh air,
Yeah.
something to get your mind back centered. And
Yes.
I think that's where yes, that space between that trigger and the response. But here's the thing, you have to practice, work it. You just can't say, well, I have this outlet and I know what to do. You have to, if you're not practicing those outlets, if you're not practicing those new skills, if you're not practicing
Yes.
those things that's going to help you get there, when you get triggered, you're going to go right to the response, because
Yes. Absolutely.
that's what
Yes.
programmed to do. But
Yeah.
you have to literally, and I use this term earlier. You have to get to a point where you're pruning and conditioning yourself to, when you get angry, you have a different response altogether, like because you practice it. If you have certain techniques that you use to calm yourself, how often are you doing those? And you should
Yeah.
do it every day. One of the things I teach in my anger management piece is the self check-in.
Yes.
When's the last time you checked in with yourself?
Yeah.
And the self check-in is simple. Is you look at yourself in the mirror. How am I doing today? And you be honest with yourself.
Yes.
How am I doing today? Can you be honest with yourself? Can you look at yourself and say, you know what, it's a rough one, but I'm going to make it. Or, you know what, I need to avoid certain things today, because if I do, I know I'm just going to go off. You have to be honest with yourself. And
Yeah.
so once you're honest with yourself, and once you understand that you have to avoid certain situations, yes, that window, that small little window between that trigger and the response, you can condition yourself to respond to, but it takes work.
It
And
takes work. It
and
takes
a lot of
work.
people don't want to do the work though, but
Yeah.
that's why they have me.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like you said earlier, people don't want to do the work, but then they want to do it when they have crisis. And one of the things about anger management, you got to understand the do's and the don'ts. And one of the things I think about some do's and don'ts is like when you find yourself getting upset, one of the things you need to do is check yourself. Like you said, check yourself. You need to sometimes step back, check your breathing. Sometimes you need to check when you remember when your cadence of your voice gets faster. That means it's something internally is making you get mad, and that pace, you're talking fast, and your voice level. You understand? And those are things. And one of the things you don't do is try to respond so quickly because that's going to lead into confrontation and fighting. And also, you don't want to be shouting and again raising your voice, and you don't want to be talking so fast. Because again, that's why I tell people I could tell you get me. Oh no! I said, see, right there, you're talking fast, you're talking loud, and you're speeding. And I already know you're getting upset and you're responding, you're reacting, and people don't understand those little do's and don'ts. And so, I thank you, James. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it, bro.
So I have a last question for you. If someone needed anger management, how can they get in contact with you, your organization, your foundation, what city and state you're located in, so that people can get information? Or it's just, I know a lot of times some things are court order, but when it comes to individual services, are you able to provide those things? Just share with people. Oh,
Yeah.
you do have a one last statement on here.
Yeah. So I know, right? I guess it's telling me time to go. Light go out. Yeah. So stilloutstanding .com, stilloutstanding.com. That is my website. You can go there for any additional information about me. As far as anger management, listen, every Saturday at 10 a.m., you can join me for a free anger management class on Instagram at Still Outstanding LLC, at Still Outstanding LLC on Instagram. So you can join me for a free anger management class. I do that every Saturday live on Instagram. All you got to do is just log in and ask questions.
Oh, man.
So I do that actually about 30 minutes on Saturday, every Saturday morning. I've been doing that last 3 Saturdays. Hopefully somebody other than my mom and my cousin shows up. But as it grows, it'll do just fine. But I'm just saying, like, putting it out there, you have to want change for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to want change for yourself. I'm moving out of the not moving out of, but I'm getting beyond the court mandated space. Like, because
yes,
first kind of met, that's where we was doing a lot of that. But now you do have a lot of people. That's why I position my anger management, my family violence program, and my practice. Yes, I do take that in, but there are many people out here outside of that realm that have issues or problems in the home, whether it's with a family member, yourself. You want to work on some things. Listen, stilloutstanding.com, stilloutstanding.com. That is my practice. That is my website. And like I said, I'm doing a free, like I said, Saturday anger management class every
10 o'clock
at 10 a.m. I get it going. It's on Instagram at Still Outstanding LLC. But like I said, if that's something you're working on individually, you need help with for personal growth. If you have a court order, like I said, if you have issues going on in your family, if you're just tired of getting frustrated and angry and want to just, move past a lot of that. I help a lot of people. And I am international. I get people from other countries, other states.
Yes.
Comes into my program. So I do stay in the state of Georgia. I'm in the Metro Atlanta area. I'm all over Metro Atlanta. So it's one particular area. Like, I have clients in Gwinnett, Cobb, the city of Atlanta, Clayton County, DeKalb. So I'm all over the actual Henry County. I'm all over Metro Atlanta. But like I said, my website You go to my website for more information, stilloutstanding.com. And then, like I said, you call me. Listen, I answer my phone.
Okay.
Now I got to preference that. I do answer my phone when I'm free. The best way, I tell people, the best way to reach me is either really email. I answer all of my emails. That's really trying to get me. So email, which my email, one real quick. It is on my website, but real quick for those, is JP Harris LCSW at Gmail. JP Harris LCSW at Gmail. That is my email. So, like I said, Brother Suave, I appreciate you. Like, man, it's been a minute, man. It's been what?
Yes, it has.
No, that's what I'm saying. Since I met because you handed me off the Anger Management Program.
Yes.
Positive growth.
And you did an outstanding job.
I'm still doing an outstanding job.
Yes, you are. You are greatness. And so thank you so much, James. I appreciate you. Everyone, this has been a mind-blowing, thought-provoking, eye-opening experience with social therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Just remember, great minds reach great places. I love you. I mean it. Bye-bye.
What's up, everyone? I'm Brandy the Disconnector, wife, show host, entrepreneur, investor, and ICS certified life coach, here to tell you that I'm on NPN TV, the network that is by us and for us. Lock in and let's get it.
Hello, my name is
Programs like this are made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, iBlister Digital Media Creative, and from contributions to NPN TV from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Goma Marie Conde. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified trauma counselor, and I am on NPN TV.
This program was made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, and from contributions to NPN TV from viewers like you. Thank you.